What is up, YouTube? I am Eric and you are watching Retro Video Game Pickups, and in this video you are going to learn how to fix a floppy joystick on a Nintendo 64 controller. So if you like games, consoles, or product reviews, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell notification. With that being said, let's hop into it. Okay, so I have this replacement joystick and I have the N64 controller. That the joystick is okay, but it's getting a little floppy and it's not really all that great, and playing with this sucks. And I bought this because I have an orange system and I wanted one to match. So this was a cheap controller because of that joystick, but I can take this and fix it with this right here. And now these replacement joysticks, the ones that I have, only work for the original controllers, and you have to be careful because you can get some of these that do not work with them. So be very careful if you are going to do this. Make sure you get a replacement joystick for the Nintendo 64 actual controller, or if you are looking for one of these, let me know. Hit me up on Twitter or Instagram. I got a bunch of them, so I'll hit them up to you guys for cheap. So if you're interested in that, let me know. But we're gonna head over to the workbench now and kind of take this controller apart, show you guys how to fix it, put it back together again, and we will be good to go. So with that being said, let's head over to the workbench. So here we are with the controller in hand and the joystick. Honestly, this is going to be a very, very simple fix. So I want to let you guys know that yes, this can be done, and honestly, it's very simple. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and get a screwdriver that I know should work, and then I will get a bigger one and see if it'll fit down there, and it looks like it does. So what I'm going to do first is take the screwdriver, take the controller, flip it over. You can see there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then there's 8 and 9. So be careful when you're doing this that you get all of them, because if you miss them, you will be struggling to get it open. I have done that before. When I first started working on these, I would forget about those two, and I would struggle to get my Nintendo 64 controller apart because of that, which is no fun because of the way it is. Okay, so we've got those all apart, and when you do, you can basically just lift up and keep all the screws in the housing if you want. Sometimes they come out like this, so I like to just put them back in there. The shell will hold them in there if you're smart about it. You can keep all of them in there and not have to worry about losing any screws. So I'm going to set that to the side here with all the screws still in it. Now you notice that when I did this, both the R and the L button either got moved off or whatever. So we're going to also set that over to the side, and here we are exposed with what we need to fix. And honestly, this isn't a super hard fix, but it could be time consuming if you forget things. So the first thing you want to do is make sure you take this Z button off. So go ahead and pop that out of the old if you can. Should be pretty easy, and just kind of bend it out of the way, but don't bend it too much because you don't want to damage it. Then what I'm going to do is unplug this. Actually, I'm going to wait to unplug that. I'm going to take the screwdriver and hit these 3 screws and unscrew it from the board actually. So you'll want to make sure you keep these screws because you'll need them for whenever you put the replacement on. So you got to take those 3 screws off, which is pretty easy honestly, and then you will be able to remove that joystick. Now this is something I've said before on here when we were talking about it earlier. You want to make sure you get the proper joystick because you can run into issues with it. But honestly, I've been using these. They're repair box. Let's see if it'll focus. So they're repair box ones. They say replacement joystick for the Nintendo 64, and then repair box, and then they have an item number there if that'll focus on it. And honestly, these things, I have a bunch of them and they've always been great. I've never had any problems with them. So now that you have removed those 3 screws, the joystick just floats there and you can unplug it from this little plug here. Let's see if I can get it really easy. Sometimes these are simple and sometimes they're hard. Look how simple that was. Now, you could keep this if you wanted to and maybe use the housing for something else, but honestly, I don't really care about this. The housing here is dirty and stuff, so I just put that to the side and I go ahead and open up my joystick and remove it, and I will show you what they look like in comparison. They almost look identical. Now this one is kind of all over the place, but this one, when you use it, it returns back to where it needs to, and honestly, it's pretty simple. Now when you flip it over to the other side, you obviously can tell they're different, but that is okay. That does not show, and there's really no worries. The only difference is maybe the texture here is a little less smoothed out, just probably because it's new. But you'll take the joystick, you'll flip it upside down, and then you'll plug the plug right back in, and honestly, that's how simple this is. So you'll take the joystick, put it down to where it needs to go, and then you'll take this and plug it in directly where you unplugged it from. Let's see if we can get it in there. Sometimes if you have problems, you can always make sure to remove the joystick and plug it in first. That's kind of what I usually do if I can't slide it in right away, which happens just because of how things are set up. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in there correctly, and hopefully you guys can see that. Oh, I almost dropped it there. So now that I have it in there, I'm gonna make sure I seat it properly, because I would not want to have to take this apart. Even though it's a pretty simple fix, I just don't want to have to do it again. So now you kind of got this just kind of chilling out there. So go ahead and hold it in there and grab a screw and screw. Oh man. Now take that screw, put it in there, and then screw it in and kind of give it a nice little tightening there. That way you can keep the joystick in, and then work on the opposite side and make sure that you have this in properly. Now if you put it in wrong, you will have to unscrew it like I'm about to show you, because you will get it where it's not in there seated properly. So make sure you leave that a little bit loose, don't tighten it all the way. Make sure when you do this that your controller is properly seated with that joystick. Now that that's the case, I'm gonna go ahead and put the screws in on the others, and then I will tighten them down. So now that we have that, you'll take your Z button again and put it back in there. Now this silicone pad can pop off, so just put it back on there. And then what I usually like to do is I try to get all the cords to go over that white piece. That way it will kind of sit flat and will look better. So now that we've got that done, we will take these L and R buttons and put them back on, and we'll start wrapping it up. So what I'm going to do is fast forward and show you guys how this goes back together. Then we will meet back in front of the games and show off how this looks. Okay, so now we have this Nintendo 64 controller that is properly working. The joystick is no longer loose, which means when I pull it down, it goes back to the center, and when I do any other direction, it brings it back to the center. Now, if you guys noticed, this was a very easy fix. Now, I used 2 different screwdrivers, and I had the replacement joystick. So, honestly, this is not a hard fix. If you have a controller like this one that looks nice, but maybe the joystick has problems, or it's slow, or whatever, you can always buy one of these aftermarket, or you can buy OEM parts in order to fix this. Now, I have used this joystick before, and that's why I used it again today, because I've used it and had no problems. Now, I will leave a link for this below. If I can find one on Amazon, I will put it down below for you. But you can also find joysticks that are GameCube length, which means the stick doesn't stick out as much. And you can also put those in. So if you are into DIY or do-it-yourself and you have busted up Nintendo 64 controllers, you can do this yourself at home with 2 screwdrivers and the joystick. So I am very, very excited about that, because now I can use this and have fun with it. Now, I will say that I love this color and I think this is very cool, and that is one reason I was really stoked to have found one of these for cheap with a busted up stick, because I knew I could fix it. So if you are looking for a specific controller based on the color, you can find them for cheaper if the stick is messed up, and then you can fix it yourself and will be better off. So if you have a controller or you are looking for a controller, that is a very good way to go about fixing it. So I want to say thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell notification, because it lets you know when I post more videos. Now, before we leave, I want to know what you guys think. Have you ever done this? Have you heard of it? How easy was it for you to do or not do? So, with that being said, one more time, thank you so much for watching, and make sure you have a good day.